Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. So I wanted to give you guys a backstory of like my personal experience with lifting and how I got into all of this. Um, so and because I feel like a lot of you guys can probably relate, but 11 years ago, I started my weightlifting journey, and this was all in the hopes of building substantial muscle and impressive strength quickly. At least that's what I intended. And I thought to myself that all I had to do was work hard and be consistent, right? Well, that's wrong. It's not that simple because I did work really hard and I was consistent for years, but I still wasn't able to build the amount of muscle and strength that I truly desired. Um, and throughout my weightlifting journey, that I like to call trial and error is the method that I used. I tried so many different modifications to my workouts, volume, and nutrition, but I'd keep hitting a plateau after plateau in muscle and strength. Sometimes I would get stronger, but it would only be to either get stuck and stay stuck there or to even regress, meaning I was losing muscle and strength. It was like this constant cycle of gaining strength, capping out, losing a little bit, gaining it back. And it was so frustrating. And just repeating that cycle, and yeah, frustrating and discouraging. Overall, I felt like a try hard wannabe. I was putting in all of this effort and work only to stay stuck year after year, hit plateau after plateau. And don't get me wrong, I did achieve some success in building muscle mass and strength, but it wasn't to the degree that I desired or that I um, thought that I should have after all of this hard work. I felt like I should just have so much more by now. And throughout the years, I'd occasionally think to myself that maybe my missing answer would be to find a coach to help me pass my plateaus. So later on, I did hire three different coaches, but each one kept me looking the same and performing the same. And I didn't realize this at the time, but two out of the three coaches also overtrained me, causing me to regress even further, losing the strength and muscle and definition that I originally attained myself. Um, and so nearly after about 8 years of all of that frustrating trial and error, after three coaches who couldn't deliver, I decided to become a certified coach to further my own knowledge to, hopefully better help myself and to help prevent others from wasting the same trial and error, wasting years of their lives, trying to get stronger, trying to build muscle mass, only to constantly fall short. But I didn't just stop at the multiple certifications like the fitness and nutrition, which I'm certified in. I also took many classes and learned from certified professionals who had also been where I had been, struggled with plateaus and muscle and strength, and I soaked up knowledge from them. So overall, I spent what felt like 9 years of wasting time and trial and error, following poor plans from coaches who train like every other coach does out there. And in that time frame, I learned way more of what not to do versus what to do. But that still didn't help me very much until I learned what to do. From trainings, from my certifications, from my education, and working with professionals who were where I was as well. So now I have learned substantially more in the past 2 years than the previous nine in regards to like what to do, like what is effective and what works. So now I have the amount of muscle I've always wanted, and that has been such a great confidence boost and very fulfilling as well. Now I have the method to keep increasing my strength, leading to people always commenting on my lifts, coming to me in the gym, just super impressed with the amount of weight that I can move. And now I know how to teach others how to get out of that same cycle that I was in, which means that now you can finally break past your muscle and strength plateaus as well. Um, I believe anyone can overcome muscle and strength plateaus, even for hard gainers, and even those who have been lifting for years. Um, I personally know the frustration that you feel after years of hard and constant work, but still not having the degree of muscle and strength that you truly desire. And so that's why I created this live training. And I even started my own coaching business, helping people just like you go from sort of fit to impressively muscular and strong. And contrary to what you may have thought all these years, you don't need to work out more for more muscle and strength. You need to work out less, yet more effectively. And we're going to cover all that. And if you think about it, this principle also applies to other areas of life. If you want to become insanely rich, should you continue working overtime at Walmart or at your local warehouse? No, I mean, while you would increase your revenue overall working overtime, you won't become impressively rich with that method. Rather, you would benefit more if if you learned how to work smarter, not longer, like maybe getting a more lucrative job or business, or obtaining the knowledge to be able to make more money in a shorter amount of time. It's the exact same with lifting. You need to learn how to lift smarter and more effectively, not longer. And this applies to beginner lifters, intermediate lifters, and advanced lifters. The harder, more effectively that you lift, the more rest is required, but the better the rates of gains. So overall, work out smarter, not harder. So in the training, this is what we're going to be covering. I'm going to cover the science behind how to break your muscle and strength plateaus. Now, when I say science, don't think to yourself like, oh, this is going to be boring, or oh, this is going to feel overwhelming. I'm not going to understand it. No, it's not going to be boring. I'm going to break it down in an easy to understand way. By the way, guys, if you guys can mute yourselves, I still can't hear you, but I just want to make sure the recording is not picking it up. If you guys can mute yourselves. Adolfo, you're my, okay, cool. Awesome. So it's not going to be boring. I'm also going to cover the 3 secrets to breaking your muscle and strength plateaus, like the lifting mistakes that you've been making that have been capping out your gains, how to lift the most effective way, and how to get more muscle and strength out of doing less. I'm sorry. Let me make sure I have everyone in here. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, guys. I'm also going to show you real life examples of people both in and out of my program who trained this exact same way and built impressive muscle and strength. And then at the end, I am also going to give a special prize to all of you on this phone call. So make sure that you stay until the very end, and we'll get to that. So let me share my screen. You guys can still hear me, right? Thumbs up. Okay, great. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Yay, awesome. Okay, so why do you keep hitting muscle and strength plateaus? I like to first define things, so let's define what a plateau is. A plateau is where you reach a state of little or no change after a time of activity or progress. So you've been lifting for a while, you've had some progress, but you get stuck. What causes a plateau? If your nutrition, sleep, absorption, hormones are all in order, then what is going to cause a muscle and strength plateau is conventional training, which is suboptimal and less effective. And I'm going to get into exactly how and why. For most people, conventional training can only get a person so far. Sure, you can absolutely build a good amount of muscle and strength with conventional training. Let's let Adolfo back in. But most will quickly cap out their muscle and strength gains, especially the more advanced they become. Why conventional training causes faster plateaus? Let's first define what conventional training looks like. Conventional training is you're lifting 4 to 6 days a week. You're chasing the pump. You're doing high volume, meaning high sets, many exercises, many reps, all of which I like to define as fluff volume. You also have less intensity in conventional training. And anytime you have high volume, you inevitably are sacrificing intensity. You cannot have both at the same time. So the reverse is true. Anytime you have more intensity, you cannot have more volume. In conventional training, you're also creating less mechanical tension. This is really important. Mechanical tension is the only driving force for hypertrophy, meaning muscle gain. Less mechanical tension is created the further away from failure that you train. And more mechanical tension is created the closer to failure that you train. So, researcher named Chris Beardsley, he has come up with a model called effective reps, and it's defined as the only effective reps in a set are the final 5 reps taken to failure. So if you take a set to failure, only the last 5 are effective for building muscle. So let's say you do 10 reps total and you take it to failure, only the last 5 were effective for muscle growth. Or let's say that you don't take it to failure. Let's say you did 10 reps, but you stopped 3 reps shy of failure. Then you only had 2 effective reps. Or let's say you stopped 1 rep shy of failure. You only had 4 effective reps. So to maximize mechanical tension, effective reps, you have to train to failure. The more sets that you do, though, the less effective each succeeding one is at building muscle and strength compared to the first set. So the first set has the greatest potential for stimulating the most mechanical tension, which stimulates the most muscular gains. And the further away from you train from failure, the more volume is required to stimulate the same amount of mechanical tension as just training 1 to 2 sets to failure. But more volume will inevitably increase muscle damage and systemic fatigue, and we're going to get into that in a second. So basically what this is saying is the further away that you train from failure, the more volume you are required to do in order to stimulate the same amount of mechanical tension to stimulate the same amount of gains. In conventional training, there's also less stimuli to the central nervous system when you compare set to set from a conventional training versus training to failure. And there's also less stimuli to your muscles, again, because of the mechanical tension. With conventional training, because you're doing so much volume, you are also creating more systemic fatigue. But systemic fatigue is not a driving force for hypertrophy. The more volume you do, whether that is more reps or more sets, the more systemic fatigue that you're creating, and that's going to require extra recovery time. Oh, hold on. Sorry, guys. My notification come up on my. Oh my goodness. Okay. So the more muscle damage is created with conventional training, and that's going to be combined with more recovery time. I'm sorry, less recovery time. So there's more muscle damage demands. The more muscle damage that you create, it's going to demand more recovery time of you. But inevitably, you can't take the time to recover sufficiently due to more workout frequency. Because again, with conventional training, you're working out 4 to 6 times a week. And we don't want to create unnecessary muscle damage because it is not a driving force for hypertrophy. It only demands more recovery time. So if you aren't recovering sufficiently, both your neural adaptations, which is your central nervous system, and your muscle fibers cannot occur or repair fast enough. And this leads to muscle and strength gain slowing down faster and faster, eventually leading to plateaus and in some cases regressions where you get weaker or lose muscle mass. And the more advanced you become in your training, the more muscle and strength plateaus will be forced on you as a result of too much muscle damage. Not enough recovery time and not enough mechanical tension. And as a note, you can interpret needing regular deloads as not properly managing recovery. Cool. So summary, why conventional training causes faster plateaus? It is because of unnecessary extra volume, creating unnecessary muscle damage and systemic fatigue, requiring extra recovery time, but inevitably preventing adequate recovery time due to the higher lifting frequency of 4 to 6 times a week. And overall, it is inefficient. It wastes unnecessary energy and time in your individual workouts, in your week, and towards your long-term, more advanced goals. And like I mentioned before, like sure you can see progress with conventional training. Particularly beginner lifters, they'll really see newbie gains pretty well with conventional training. But again, the more advanced that you become in your training, the more muscle and strength plateaus will be forced on you as a result of too much muscle damage, not enough recovery time, and not enough mechanical tension. So, how do you overcome and prevent muscle and strength plateaus? You want to maximize mechanical tension. Remember, that is the only driving force for hypertrophy. You want to minimize muscle damage. You want to minimize systemic fatigue. You want to recover sufficiently. And overall, you want to achieve progressive overload, which means that you are, over time, able to move more weight with more reps. Nothing else is required. So progress, all of this is all so that you can come back stronger from your previous workout because you fully achieved mechanical tension, your central nervous system is fresh again, and your muscle fibers have had time to strengthen and grow due to adequate recovery. And this is all in the context of without an excessive amount of time away from the gym due to extra muscle damage and extra systemic fatigue from conventional training. So, to overcome and prevent muscle and strength plateaus, this inevitably equates to less volume, which means less sets, less reps. It means higher intensity in your sets, training to momentary muscular failure. We're going to cover that in a bit. Lower rep ranges, less workout days, and more rest days. Is all this making sense, guys? Okay, great. So, how do you tell your body to grow and keep growing? You want to achieve progressive overload. This, in essence, is how you tell your body to get stronger and grow. So just to break it down, here's the definition of progressive overload, but to put it in simple terms, progressive overload is becoming stronger and stronger over time by being able to move more weight and or more reps at the same amount of weight or more weight. And progressive overload can be achieved in a variety of ways, like more weight, more reps, better form and control, faster time completing a set with the same weight and reps. That's a big distinguisher. But progressive overload is not more workout volume as many mistakenly think. So progressive overload is not doing more exercises. It is not doing more sets. It is not more weekly frequency, and it is not more time lifting. So some examples of what is not progressive overload. More time under load does not equate to more hypertrophy or strength. So to give a contrast, 60 seconds to complete a set to squats, to failure, so to speak, that's great for stimulating muscle mass. Compared to 4 minutes to complete a set of squats, if it takes you 4 minutes to continuously do a set of squats and complete it, you're using a very, very, very light weight. More than likely, you're also not going to be training to failure because the lighter loads that you use, the harder it is to tell when you have reached failure, because the more reps that you do, the more systemic fatigue and muscle damage that you're creating. So it's harder to tell when you're training to failure. Sprinting at max speed for 30 seconds, that stimulates muscular gains, but walking for 4 hours, no, you're not gonna stimulate any notable muscular gains. You might make your type 1 muscle fibers bigger, but definitely not. Those have such lower size potential than type 2. We're going to get into that later. So basically, this is showing you that the more time that you spend in a set, that does not equate to more muscle growth. You could do more volume with maximal intensity, right? Training to failure. Not really. It's depending on how high you go, that's going to be impossible. Like if you do high volume and you're taking every set to failure, you're going to hit a wall. You're going to fry your central nervous system, and you're going to create unnecessary muscle damage, requiring way more recovery days. And remember, muscle damage does not equate to muscle growth. only mechanical tension. You could do more volume of sets, reps, and workout days. No, actually, that's inefficient. It takes up even more time. Again, it interferes with recovery, demands more recovery days, and leads to faster and more frequent plateaus. And the only time that more volume is of benefit is for skill-based sports. So think of something like powerlifting, Olympic lifting, strongman, gymnastics, etc. But remember that skill does not equate to more strength or muscle mass. In fact, skill makes work for your muscles easier because you have increased skill. So it just makes work on your muscles easier. And then the second thing of how you tell your body to grow and keep growing is you must recover well. If you don't, you'll stall in some cases. You'll stall and in some cases regress in your progress, like becoming weaker over time, less muscle, more fat. If you're not getting stronger, you're not achieving progressive overload. You're not building muscle mass. If you can't get stronger, you've reached a strength plateau, which inevitably means you've reached a muscle plateau. And if you can't get stronger, you are overtraining. Again, if you have sufficient nutrition, sleep, and absorption, those are already in order. So to summarize, how do you tell your body to grow and keep growing? You want to have higher intensity in your sets and less volume, meaning less sets, less workout days, less workout time. This is the most efficient way to maximize your gains in strength, muscle, and body composition and preventing plateaus. And this is called high intensity training, otherwise known as HIIT, HIT, not to be confused with HIIT, which is a totally different modality of training. In fact, they can't even be put in the same category. They're so different. And just as a cool fact, HIIT was invented in the early 1970s by Arthur Jones, who is the creator of Nautilus training machines. So what training optimally with HIIT looks like? You must train hard 2 to 3 times a week. 3 times for beginners, 2 times for immediate lifters. The more advanced you are, the more recovery time that you require. And this is because you have a greater ability to tap into your central nervous system and to recruit your type 2 muscle fibers. So that's why. You must recover well those 4 to 5 other days during the week, meaning your rest days. You must prioritize intensity over volume. You only need one to 2 sets per exercise, and you must take them to momentary muscular failure, MMF, not volitional failure, which is VF. That you need to understand the difference between those two. Most people do not know what training to failure looks like, including many advanced lifters. Like I see some advanced lifters on social media and they say they're training to failure, and I look at their sets and I'm like, that wasn't failure. Jacob is laughing because he's been my client in the past, and yeah, he knows now what training to failure looks and feels like. So it's imperative that you know the difference between momentary muscular failure and volitional failure, because as we're going to cover later on, there is a huge difference in results between the two. You also must target both your central nervous system and your muscular system. You need to perform your sets with perfect controlled form. That means no cheating with momentum, no heaving or bouncing the weight. And this simultaneously is going to make the training more effective and safer. And in fact, this can be the safest and most effective way to train, especially from a time perspective. So this is really going to also tie into longevity of training. And optional, some or all of your exercises should be performed with slow positives and negatives, meaning ups and downs, so that they are as safe as possible and so that you target both your type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers. So the reason why you want to perform your reps slowly, not just so that it's safer, but you're also, when you do so, you're going to be targeting your your type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers. Type 1 muscle fibers are slow twitch. They're great for endurance-like activities, like think long distance running. But they are fatigue resistant. So if you're performing your reps slowly, inevitably you're going to be required to use less weight. which means in the beginning, you're going to be working your type 1 muscle fibers. If you're training closer and closer to failure, eventually your type 1 muscle fibers are going to fatigue out completely. And that's when your type 2 muscle fibers are going to kick in, being responsible for moving the weight. And if you train to failure, that means that you have fully fatigued your type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers, therefore promoting the best growth. And the reason why you want to stimulate both, type 1 muscle fibers they do not have the size potential as type 2 muscle fibers, but if you're targeting both, you're getting the best of both worlds. So training to or very close to failure is what is going to stimulate adaptations, meaning telling your body to get stronger and bigger. And this is a direct result of maximizing mechanical tension, which is the only driving force for muscle and strength gains. I'm going to keep repeating that, guys, because it is so important. Let's see. And then, so interesting fact with HIIT, you actually don't need deloads. And that is because you're getting so much rest, recovery time during the week. You just never need a deload. Okay, so I want to show you guys some anecdotal evidence of the effectiveness of HIIT. So these are all the bodybuilders that we're going to cover today. There are other lifters. All of these people train HIIT. I'm going to cover the ones who are not my clients. So this is Dorian Yates. He was a professional bodybuilder in the 90s. He competed in Mr. Olympia. Yes, he took steroids, so there's that. He's not taking steroids here. But he trained HIIT. He trained 4 times a week in the beginning of his career. But later on, he reduced his training frequency as a result of this guy right here, Mike Menser, who also trained HIIT. But he, in the beginning, trained 4 times a week, but only had 45-minute sessions, and he only did 1 set to failure. When he met Mike Menser actually encouraged him to reduce his volume. And so later on, he did reduce his volume and his workout frequency. This is me before and during. This is Greg O'Gallagher. He started lifting 3 times a week with HIIT, but now he only lifts 2 times a week. This is Martin Burkhan. He lifts 3 times a week with HIIT. This is my client, Tanya. She is still a beginner lifter, but she has achieved amazing results in a short amount of time. She had no lifting experience prior. Even though she lives in a different state, she lives in Virginia. I was able to teach her across the country how to lift, and she got amazing results in a short amount of time. This is my client, Claiborne. Here, he was lifting 4 times a week. He had been stuck in a strength and muscle plateau for a few months before he met me. And this is him during training. He only lifts 2 times a week right now. He only does 1 set to failure. That's it. This is James Vincent. He's not my client, by the way. These are not my clients either, by the way. But he trains with HIIT as well. He only lifts 2 times a week. This is me again. I've significantly built my legs with this training system. Mike Menser, he started lifting 3 times a week. He was a professional bodybuilder during the 70s. And when all the other bodybuilders around him were working out 6 days a week, sometimes doing 2 sessions per day, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was only in the gym for less than 3 hours a week. And look at the amazing physique that he's built. This is Drew Bay. He just turned 50. He only lifts once every 4 days. This is Alex Leonidas. He lifts only 2 times a week. He recently competed in his first bodybuilding show. And I think he placed first or second, but he's all natural. Drew Bay is all natural. So far, the only ones who have taken steroids are Dorian Yates and Mike Menser. Everyone else is natural. This is my client. He wishes to be unnamed, but this was before he was lifting, I think, 4 to 5 times a week. And here is only 2 weeks into my program. And look, you can see abdominal definition. This is my client, Kevin. He was an experienced lifter before he came to me. He was lifting 5 times a week, but he had been stuck for years building muscle and strength. He had nagging injuries. He had muscle imbalances. One pec was larger than the other one due to muscle injuries. And here he's only lifting 3 times a week. And he will be one of the first to say that he was not the most consistent with the program. But even though, despite that, 8 weeks later, he changed his body quite significantly and was able to build his legs up quite a bit, which was one of his goals, as well as lean down. This is me again, and this is me again here. Okay, so let's put this one down. Okay. So this is my progress lifting only 2 times a week with HIIT, doing only 1 set to failure. So before HIIT, I used to have skinny legs and a flat butt. I used to have what I like to call a ruler straight waistline. It was just like straight up and down, it felt like. I used to think squatting double my body weight for 1 rep was strong. I used to think bench pressing my body weight 1 time was strong. I used to think doing a handful of pull-ups was strong, and I kept hitting strength and muscle plateaus despite consistency and hard work for years. Like I practically never missed a workout, guys, back then, but I was still stuck. But with it, I have thick muscular legs and glutes. Look at the difference between the two. This was like a year or so into my training, so my legs used to be much skinnier than that. I now have an hourglass and muscular shape. See this and that. I can squat and deadlift double my body weight for 5 reps. I can bench press my body weight for 7 reps. By the way, bench has always been my weakest lift, so I know that number is not super impressive. And with those numbers, I can easily compete in powerlifting. Like to squat double your body weight for 5 reps is a lot, guys. If you're a 225-pound man, that means you're squatting 500 pounds for, right? 225. No, 250. So would be 450. Okay. That means you'd be squatting 450 pounds for 5 reps. That's a lot. Not a 1 rep max. 5 reps. That's a lot. I can do weighted chin-ups for reps. In every workout, I keep getting stronger in most of my exercises, which means I'm still building muscle mass too. And this is with HIIT. I could not achieve this before HIIT. I'm the strongest I've ever been with HIIT, lifting just 2 times a week, doing only 1 to 2 sets per exercise. And here's proof that I did not have good genetics from a shape or muscle perspective. Like here's me in 2006, very skinny legs, pretty much straight up and down figure, barely any butt. All of these genes, by the way, they're all very baggy on me. So that means that my legs are much skinnier than they look in these pictures. Here's 2008, these 3 pictures. Here I was yo-yo dieting. Here I was doing low calories and walking. I was 115 pounds. Then I lost even more weight, got to 109 pounds, still doing just low calories and walking. But as you can see, like my waist is still kind of wide for being that thin. That was very thin. And again, these jeans are baggy, so my legs are much skinnier than that. And then here's 2011 was my first year of lifting. I was 130 pounds. And as you can see, I built a little bit of size and muscular definition to my legs, but it was nothing noteworthy. And still, like my lower body was still skinnier than my upper body, and I did not like that. And then here's 2016, 5 years of lifting. You know, I built some shape, built some muscle, but it still was not to the degree that I wanted it. I wanted my legs bigger. My butt was still it wasn't very full. You can see my shoulders are starting to build up a little bit, and my waist has gotten smaller, but I wasn't satisfied. And so compare those beginning pictures to where I am now. Like, look at my legs now. Look at my back. Look how small my waist is. Look how much fuller my glutes are. I just have a much more athletic and strong physique. I have ab lines. So yeah, I've achieved so much. And remember, the first 9 years was just hitting a muscle and plateau after plateau. And so the last 2 years is where I put on the most amount of muscle and strength. Okay, so that was anecdotal evidence. I want to quickly cover the science, but I'm going to break it down in an easy to understand way. If you want to look at this later, this paper that was This published paper covers over 167 studies confirming these 3 points. It confirms that training to momentary muscular failure is ideal for muscular and strength adaptations. It confirms that only one set per exercise is required to maximize muscle strength and hypertrophy, and is recommended for avoiding recovery issues associated with multiple sets and high volume and frequency. And it also confirms that on frequency, performing an exercise for a body part only needs to be done 1 to 2 times a week. So the 167 studies they prove these points, and it also compares conflicting evidence that is a proponent of high volume training. And in fact, so in this paper, one of their main points is that the American College of Sports Medicine, which is the ACSM, regularly publish a position stand making recommendations for optimal achievement of the desired training goals. However, the most recent position stand, as well as previous ones, has come under heavy criticism for misrepresentation of research, lack of evidence, and author bias. So basically what they're saying is, basically this right here, the ACSM is the science that most people who are proponents of conventional training like to promote and say, oh, this says that, but it's misleading. And in terms of a science perspective, it doesn't take into all the accounts. So it compares that to low volume training and the studies on all that. So it's a very interesting read. I highly recommend reading it. But this is the science that we're covering today. Here are all the resources or references. So the first study is, it confirms that training to momentary muscular failure provides the best results. There was a study done on resistance trained men, meaning they had experience lifting, meaning they're not newbie lifters, and they were separated into 3 groups. Each group performed only one set twice a week for 10 weeks, so that's very low volume. One group performed sets to perceived rep max, which is volitional failure. Remember, volitional failure is where you think you reached failure, but you actually haven't. The second group performed sets to momentary muscular failure, which is true failure. And the third group performed sets in rest pause style. At the end, the perceived rep max group, volitional failure, didn't improve in any way, but the other 2 did, particularly the failure group, who outshined both groups in strength gains, muscle gains, and fat loss. So to summarize, training sets to momentary muscular failure provides the best results, and volitional failure did not achieve any results, because remember, the context is lower volume training. So that means if you're doing lower volume training, you cannot train to volitional failure. You must train to momentary muscular failure for this to be effective. And momentary muscular failure outshined even the rest pause style sets, indicating that constant time under load is going to provide better results than taking, I like to call, breathers between your reps. And this is my inference. I believe that this is due to maximizing mechanical tension. Remember, that's the driving force for hypertrophy, meaning that you're taking that first round to absolute failure while also limiting systemic fatigue created by not resting long enough between the rest pause style sets. Okay, so these other studies prove that only one set is needed to maximize gains. A 2000 study assessed a group of experienced weightlifters. The whole group for 1 year performed a whole body workout routine, 3 days a week, performing only one set per exercise. So this is very low volume. 9 exercises total, so 9 sets total per workout. After that year, they split the group into 2 groups. One group remained in the original routine, and the other group increased the sets from 1 to 3 sets per exercise. So there's still 9 exercises, but the second group is now doing 18 sets total per workout, which is high volume. At the end of the 13-week study, both groups increased their strength, muscle size, and muscular endurance, but there was no or negligible differences in improvements in any of those areas comparing the 1-set group to the 3-set group. You can also see this being proven in a 1996 study, proving this on untrained individuals. So, when it comes to making conclusions, you want to see if it has the same effect on newbie lifters and experienced lifters, and this confirms that it does. There was another study here that also proves at different volume sets. They had one group doing 3 sets, another 6 sets, and another group doing 12 sets. And they concluded that there were no notable gains performing more sets than 3 sets. So to summarize, doing more than 1 set per exercise brings about no or negligible gains in strength or hypertrophy, particularly when you account for the extra time and effort to perform additional sets. So this study shows that you need to target both your central nervous system and muscular system to maximize gains. A study in 2018 took a group of 30 men and split them into 3 groups. All 3 groups performed one side of their body, meaning one leg and one arm, at 20% of their 1 rep max, which is very lightweight. That's very, very lightweight. Group 1 performed the other side of their limbs at 40% of their 1 rep max, so a little bit heavier, but still pretty light. Group 2 performed the other side of their limbs at 60% of their 1 rep max, and Group 3 performed the other side of their limbs at 80% of their 1 rep max. And by the way, volume was matched for their 20% limbs in all 3 groups. So at the end of the 12 weeks, all groups saw an increase in muscular size and strength, but the 60% and 80% groups found the most significant increases, with 80% leading the way with strength and muscular size. So this likely can be due to the fact that lighter loads do not stimulate enough mechanical tension. Remember, that's the driving force for hypertrophy, to stimulate the type 2 muscle fibers. Or it's due to the fact that it's harder to discern when you've reached failure with lighter loads. The lighter loads that you use, the more systemic fatigue that you're creating, the more muscle damage that you're creating. And so it can be harder to determine when you've actually reached failure with lighter loads. And performing a set at 20% of your 1 rep max is considered an endurance style set because it's such lightweight. So you're just stimulating the type 1 muscle fibers. And those do not have the size potential as type 2 muscle fibers. So in order to stimulate type 2 fibers, you have to lift with heavier, harder loads. Hence why the 60% and 80% groups saw greater increases in not just muscle size, but also strength. I will say that when it comes to lighter loads, if you still take it to failure, you can still achieve that mechanical tension and that growth. But it's the lighter loads that you use, the harder it is to determine if you actually have reached failure. So let's see. So to conclude, there are many ways to get in shape. I'm not saying this is the only way to get in shape, but HIIT is the most efficient way to get in shape. And as the study suggests, you can get better results in strength and muscle gains and improving body composition when you train with HIIT. HIIT is also the safest way to train, ensuring you keep making gains in the short term and long term as you age. Plus, if you keep hitting plateaus in conventional lift training, just like I was for 9 years, HIIT can simultaneously provide the best stimuli and recoverability for gains. Both of those are so important. You can achieve a lot of stimuli with conventional training because you're doing high volume, and if you're taking your sets at least close to failure, you're still creating sufficient stimuli in most cases. But with conventional training, you're not getting adequate rest for your body to actually recover and grow and come back stronger. Plus, with HIIT, if you have a busy lifestyle and you don't want to be required to live in the gym for the rest of your life, HIIT is the most sustainable way to train while reaching impressive strength and size. Because with conventional lifting, you have to lift 4 to 6 times a week. Even if you enjoy lifting, do you foresee yourself being able to do that for the rest of your life? Like when you're in your 60s or 70s? One, do you think your body is going to be able to do that? More than likely not. And even if you could, do you want to do that when you're that age? In most cases, as you age, the more you prioritize quality time with the people that you love. So with HIIT, you have nothing to lose. You only have opportunity to gain with more muscle, more strength, more time, more energy, and more sustainability for the rest of your life. And I really like this quote from Dorian Yates. He was one of the bodybuilders that we covered earlier. He said, I had my faith in the high intensity training, but there are other people out there like Arnold Schwarzenegger training with more volume and more frequency. So I thought, let's give it a go. I'm getting stronger and bigger lifting 3 times a week, but hey, maybe I can grow even faster if I train more. Guess what happened? I zeroed. Everything came to a full stop. What happened when I cut back again? I started growing again, getting bigger and stronger again. I didn't need to learn that lesson that many times to know there's a formula with it. And remember, Dorian Yates took steroids. So even in his bodybuilding career, when he tried to do higher volume with steroids, he did not get as good of results. So, with all of that said, what do you guys do next? I know that's a lot of information and it can be kind of overwhelming to figure out, how do I change my workout? So, how do I modify it to look like HIIT and to get better results with lower frequency and lower volume? I totally understand that. Um, and remember how I said that I was going, oh, let's stop sharing the screen. Oh, actually, no, I need to keep sharing it. I have one more slide for you guys. One more. We're almost done. Okay. So remember how I said that I was going to give away something special to all of you guys who attended this webinar, whether you're live right now or watching the replay? Well, so I want, if you guys are wanting the best gains possible right now, if you're frustrated with your own trial and error journey, if you keep going in circles with your training, just like I was, not progressing in strength or muscle mass, at least to the degree that you truly desire, well, all of you guys are in incredible luck right now because I've decided that I am going to fix all of your workouts entirely for free. And so I want to cover real quick what exactly that is so that you know exactly what you're getting. Okay. So when I fix your workout, it's going to include all of this. I'm going to take a look at your current routine so that I know exactly what you need to fix, what you need to change. That is estimated at about $30 value. I'm also going to give you a customized guide showing you the lifting mistakes that you are making that you need to stop. That way you understand the difference between what is wrong and what is right. I'm also going to show you the exact methods you need to implement in your training to break through your muscle and strength plateaus. So this is knowing exactly what to do. And I'm also going to give you demonstration videos showing you how to lift effectively and examples of an effective training so that you can spot the differences and start training as effectively as possible. That's estimated at $150 value. And remember how I said that there is a huge difference between volitional failure and momentary muscular failure. And then we also saw from the studies how volitional failure did not bring about any gains in muscle strength or endurance. So that's what that is. Those demonstration videos, I'm going to show you what training to volitional failure looks like so that you don't do that. And I'm going to show you what training to momentary muscular failure does look like so you know what you need to do. I'm also going to give you a personalized roadmap showing you your long-term plan so that you can reach your ultimate goals. That's priceless. And then after all of this, you're also going to get a personal Zoom meeting with me so that I can walk you through your plan so that you understand what you need to do to achieve your goals. And that's a $70 value. And there's a temporary bonus. If you sign up for this assessment before tomorrow at midnight, I'm also going to give you for free form fix review. This is basically where I take a look at you doing your exercises and I give you professional feedback on what you need to adjust, not just so it's safe, not just that, I mean, that's important, but also so that you know how to get the best results possible, so that you know what you need to do to start training to failure so that you build the best muscle and strength and break past your plateaus. So and that's a $70 value. So overall, this is valued at over $320, and I am giving it to you for absolutely for free. No gimmicks, nothing like that. It's 100% free. Um, and so with all that said, like the reason why I'm doing this is I don't want you to have to keep wasting years of your life, your energy, time, and money staying stuck in a cycle that you've been stuck in. I don't want you to be there anymore because I know how frustrating and discouraging that can be. And so the fastest way to get where you want to be is to learn from the mistakes of others, just like I had done that helped me to get unstuck. Had I not done that myself, had I not gotten formal education and learned from other professionals who have been where I was, just like you are right now, I would either still be stuck or at the very least dissatisfied with my progress 11 years later. And I don't want that for you guys. So I encourage you to learn from me, learn from this training, learn from my mistakes, and apply for the free Fix My Workout assessment. I'm going to put it in the chats right now so that you guys can have the link and sign up for it. Okay, so I just now put it in the chat. Make sure you copy it and fill it out. But yeah, so even if you don't take the free Fix My Workout and the Fix My Form, I would still encourage you guys to implement the principles that I just now taught you in this training. Keep learning from me in the Facebook group Strong and Lean Lifting 2 times a week. If you haven't joined it, that is going to be an invaluable group to you. And keep learning from other professionals who have been where you are now, who didn't take the shortcut of steroids, but they found the solution and overcame their plateaus. Because I know a lot of people who get, they get stuck in their muscle and strength goals, and they think to themselves, oh, steroids are my only way out. That's the only way. And that's not true. You don't have to do that to break your muscle and strength plateaus. So I hope this was helpful, guys. Do you guys have any questions for me? And remember, I can't hear you guys. I don't know why. So y'all are gonna have to put your questions in the chat. Okay, so Jacob says, you mentioned lifting twice a week, but beginners are lifting 3 times a week. Did you start lifting 3 times per week and then transition to 2 times per week once you hit a certain point, or did you start lifting 2 times a week from the start once you started doing HIIT? Very good question. Yes, so I started lifting 3 times a week. So this is another thing. Remember how I stressed upon you the importance of knowing the difference between volitional failure and momentary muscular failure? Those first, so the first 9 years when I was stuck or not achieving very good results, I thought that I was training to failure, but I was actually training to volitional failure. So that's one of the reasons why I stayed stuck for so long. So when I came across HIIT, yes, I did start lifting 3 times a week. And I say this to all of my clients. It is a normal process to need to learn what training to failure looks and feels like. That is why there's so many even intermediate and advanced lifters who don't even know what training to failure looks or feels like. So that's why I start all my beginner lifters lifting 3 times a week. That's where I started. And then as I learned to train to failure, that's when I transitioned to lifting 2 times a week. And that's it. And just doing 1 set per exercise. That's it. Like, it's funny, whenever I go to the gym and people see me, like occasionally if it's really busy, like if I need to use a machine but someone else is on it, I'll ask them like, hey, do you mind if I work in between your set? Most people are totally cool with that. And I always joke around, like, I'm the easiest person to share a machine with because I only need to do 1 set and then I'm done. So, thanks. About how long did it take you to transition to 2 times per week? Just curious. Once I formally learned about HIIT, I would say not very long. Maybe, let's see. I found out about it in November, I think. November, December. Probably February, so maybe 4 months later. So not very long at all. Redenter says, man, can we ask for a copy of this video? Yes. So since you registered for this event, you are the only people who are getting access to the replay. So I'm going to be emailing that out later. It says it's recording. I am hoping that just because I can't hear you guys, that it's still getting the audio from everyone. I hope so. Please God. If not, then I'm going to have to like record this by myself or something and send that out to you guys. But yeah, do you have any other questions? What do you guys think of the training? Jika says, great, thanks so much. You're so welcome. Thank you guys for hopping on. So yeah, if you guys don't have any questions, I'm gonna go ahead and end this. Make sure that Ronald asks, why isn't HIT more popular? Oh, man, that could be a long story. So there is this theory. So remember how I mentioned Mike Menser, the 1970s bodybuilder? He actually competed against Arnold Schwarzenegger. This was maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger's. These were like, I think this was Arnold Schwarzenegger's last Mr. Olympia, and he joined like at the last minute. Anyways, Mike Menser was in the lead up until that point, and there's this theory that the people behind Mr. Olympia, they were the owners of Gold's Gym, and they worked closely with Arnold, and all of them were proponents of high volume training, which is conventional training. It's conventional now, as a result of Arnold, really. It wasn't always like that. If you look at the history of lifting, there are bodybuilders like in the, I think I want to say the Silver Age. Arnold Schwarzenegger is considered the Golden Age. Who lifted only like 3 times a week. They did full body training. This was before the invention of steroids, and they had really great physiques. So there's this theory that, the owners of Gold's Gym, the people behind Mr. Olympia, they did not want to award the title to Menser because, he only lifted 3 times a week. He was the only one who did it. So if they awarded it to him, it would contradict what they were proponents of, high volume training. I don't think there's a way to confirm that, but that is a pretty prevalent theory as to why HIT isn't more popular. Also, another theory that I have is HIT probably isn't as popular because you can try HIT, but if you don't know how to train to failure, like if you don't learn from someone what training to failure looks and feels like, you're more than likely training to volitional failure, and so you're not going to get as good of results. So that's why this temporary bonus offer that I have right now of fixing your form review, make sure that you fill out the assessment before tomorrow by midnight, because that's falling off if you don't. That way you are actually getting feedback from me so that you know how to train to failure, and of course safely as well. iPhone says makes sense. I think iPhone is David. Cool. So yeah, make sure you guys fill out that fix my workout assessment before midnight tomorrow so that you get the whole package. But otherwise, I'm so glad you guys joined me on this. I hope y'all liked it. I hoped it helped. And if y'all have questions, just let me know. Okay. So,